One thing I did want to ask you before we dive into that, though, is this unfun thing of COVID that we've all had to deal with. And so you've really, I keep saying we got to come up with a different word for pivot, because everyone's like, we've used it too much, right? Like, it was funny. I posted something on social media a while back, and they were like, well, what about that Friends episode? And I'm like, that's the only time you're ever allowed to use pivot ever again is when you're referencing that episode. Otherwise, don't say it. But you have truly pivoted your business to continue to make it work and stay alive and thrive. So tell us, because I feel like it tied into your Atlanta story a little bit and your traveling, but tell us what you're doing to change it up and keep going despite kind of what's happening in the world.
So for about 16 years, I had a standalone studio in the town of Pittsford, which is a suburb of Rochester, New York. Yeah. And a little studio. It was great. See people, they come in and the studio is all set up for personal color analysis. It feels a lot like this studio, as a matter of fact. But when we got shut down in New York State and we weren't allowed to see people in person, I had to actually shut that business down. And a lot of people said to me at that time, Kerry, you don't believe in doing a personal color analysis virtually. You can't, you don't believe in it, but people are going to need to be, you're going to need to tell people what their colors are by looking at them on a monitor or by seeing their photos.
Sure.
And I never wanted to do that because I don't believe it works, because there's such fine-tuning there. And when I tell you a little bit more about the process, you might see that you can get close, but close isn't good enough for this. And I learned very quickly that even though a lot of people said I had to do that, I couldn't do that, and I wasn't going to do that. So I won't do a virtual color analysis, but I can consult once somebody knows their colors. I can consult virtually. But I also thought that this was the perfect time. For years and years and years, people have been asking me, Kerry, there's nobody that does what you do in Des Moines or in Eugene, Oregon. Can you please come here? Can you please come and do my colors? Or how can I get my colors done without having to come to you? And I love to travel, and my kids are grown. Very nice. This is just the perfect time. So I decided to close that studio, the standalone studio, move the studio closer to my home in the city of Rochester. And I purchased one of those conversion vans, and it's being turned into a travel studio where I can, at the time I didn't know how long this was going to linger on. I can travel safely. I can sleep in it. I don't have to get on mass transit. I can have a lot of autonomy, and I can do a color analysis in that environment within the van. So it's
so cool.
Yeah. And so the original plan would be that I would have been here in the van right now, but I could come out and get my consultation. Yes. We might have to do it on my loop back through Atlanta.
Yes.
But that's in play. I'm due to pick up the van, which is being converted in Michigan in May. So I'm ready after I hit, I'm going to be hitting the road, and I've got my feet wet. I've been traveling. I was out in California for 2 weeks, and I was in Florida for 6 weeks, and I've been doing color analysis on the road, but without having, all of the things that make it easier and more fun.
Yeah.